think the opportunity to create structural and systematic reform in Tasmania, and reform that we need in many respects, the opportunities and those levers don't come around every day, and certainly the emergence of the 19th licence of the AFL and the Tasmania Football Club is just such a tremendous opportunity for our state. We all believe that this is bigger than football, and fundamentally we believe that if we don't actually maximise the opportunity that comes with this club, then we've failed. And it's not about elite men and women and boys and girls kicking a red piece of leather around a piece of green grass. This is about reform in Tasmania, economically, socially and culturally.
The Jackies have been able to show how sport can be so powerful in shaping an identity, specifically within a community. And in my time there, it was just a lived experience of resilience, discipline and belief that we're able to give to a state of 500,000 there, but also Tasmanians off the island.
You know, we have some educational attainment challenges in Tasmania in particular, particularly our Year 12 leaving sort of rates and getting our sort of local students into higher education. We see sport as a gateway, and we're very keen to work in community and with schools and with many of our clubs on encouraging the university being seen as a place that everyone belongs. And so I guess from our perspective, sport is a great equaliser in that sense.
Al, I think it's one thing that our game's probably been a bit guilty of. I don't think we've had enough access to the players back into clubs and grassroots level. Like, why aren't we being used more in the community around that sort of thing, but around just getting back into your clubs and even going not just your local grade club, but get out into the more remote communities and help promote the game. Because one thing with the success that we're riding in Tasmanian sport now, we have to be maximising that. We've got to be making the most of that. We with the success that Jack Jumpers have had and listening to the success rates there and participation rates in AFL footy, the Hurricanes on the back of last year need to be a bit more proactive, I think, and get out there.
We'll be embarking early in 2026 on the development of a theory of change for our club. And that will be to add some academic rigour, longitudinal evidence basis around the activity that we do put into market. That's going to be really, really important for us, not only in terms of us making sure that we're not, a mile wide and an inch deep, but we actually go deep into the vertical. And the issue will be education as a core focus of our club. So we're going to do a bit of work in that space, and we do believe that there's a genuine opportunity not just to make an impact, but actually to generate philanthropic funding into the Tasmanian community. We know that a lot of philanthropists more broadly are looking for sport as a lever, and if our club can set up a really robust evidence-based model that we measure, we think that presents a tremendous opportunity for Tassie.
And I had a mentor sit with me and he said, "Why don't you go back to school?" And I said, "Absolutely not. I did 4 years of it in the US, and he eventually talked me into it, and it then came down to what was I going to study. And so my wife was teaching at the time. It's like, I'm going to go do my Masters of Teaching. And it was based around me trying to find success off the court, away from basketball. Evidently, it's turned my career around. From my time in Perth, outside of winning those 2 championships and getting married, I'd say going back and studying was the best thing I did. And then it came down to I was able to start influencing students, 10s, 11s and 12s. When I was going through high school, as someone who was aspiring to be an athlete and trying to learn the intangibles, it wasn't just book work, it was everything else that went with it.
Look, we've had a really successful last few years in UTAS sport, and really put down to I think the commitment and dedication of a really incredible team. And we're all here to make a difference for students, exactly as you've just said. And because we know that if you're participating in sport, you're more likely to succeed at university because the skills that you're building and the level of attainment. We see that in the statistics, and in fact Unisport have done research about this to show that the impact of if you're playing sport while at university you're more likely to complete your degree. So we see that and we want to encourage that. But yes, we've actually just got back from Unisport Nationals, which were on the Gold Coast last week. We took 90 University of Tasmania athletes, some who are very competitive and at the top of their field and competing internationally, and others who actually just got together with some of their friends and, you know, formed a netball team and may have trained, you know, 5 or 6 times before coming away. So a real breadth of athletes that came away with us, and just absolutely thrilled to see them participate with such commitment and really proud of wearing University of Tasmania colours, and we were all very proud to see them. But we came away with 1 gold, 2 silver and about 6 top 10 places, which is incredibly amazing when there's 40 universities, 6,500 athletes competing across the week. So that's brilliant.
And I think what we've found Australia-wide, not only in Tasmania, but too many of these little country clubs dropping off and not surviving. And I think a really good way to be able to look at success is making sure that that's not happening. So trying to find a way to include every little community in every step of the path. And I relate it back to cricket, and we talk about the success of the Hurricanes last year. Talking to everyone at Cricket Tas, they seem to think because we'd engaged our foundation with the Hurricanes, that the Hurricanes had engaged the community more, and it had actually had something to do with the success of the way their whole season panned out, and having 18,000 people or 16,000 people turn up to the final just with a little bit of simple community engagement. So for me, it's not about just getting through. We've got to find a way to make these little clubs, communities prosper as well as they possibly can, because they will be the only thing behind sustained growth and success in our state.
Thank you very much. It was a real treat tonight to hear this set of panellists talking about really the connection between community and sport. And from the university's perspective, it's an incredibly real connection. When barely half our kids finish school, where that's the average, where half the adult population is still illiterate, education's in a crisis, and it has real social impacts. And Kath kind of touched on it. If you go 20 kilometres from the centre of Hobart, life expectancy drops about a year for every kilometre you travel. So out of Bridgewater Gagebrook, the average life expectancy is 67. It's the same as many developing world countries. So inequality is radically bad on the island. And we often don't notice it because they're not the parts people get to. But our sporting clubs do. They carry the message about sport and opportunity and possibility to every corner of the island. And they do it with this kind of education component attached to it. And it's very real, and it's making a difference, and it's changing things. And that's why we love working with them, because they brought a different kind of ethos to sport, to what community is about and what possibilities can happen. And that your university, it's not just a university of Tasmania, it's a university for Tasmania, working with Tasmanian organisations to create the best possible future we can for the island, and joining our forces with these extraordinary organisations doing great things for the future.